My name is Jewel Settecase. In 2009, I left my job in the business world to teach Bible at a Christian high school in Chicago. Impacted by my students' questions, I set out on a journey that brought me first to seminary to study apologetics and philosophy of religion, and then into pastoral ministry. As a pastor, I saw firsthand the struggle of believers confronted with questions of life that at first seemed impossible to answer, and the powerful confidence that came when they saw how God's Word gives the answers and guidance they needed. I had a dream to spread that message and equip more followers of Jesus, so my family and I joined Crew and launched the Think Institute. Now, I'm on a mission to equip believers to explain, share, and defend the Christian message by applying timeless biblical truths to current cultural challenges. I don't have all the answers, but I'm determined to find them. And through this show, I'm reporting back to you, the Think Squad, what I discover. Welcome to the Think Podcast. Really quickly before we start, learning how to interpret all of life through the lens of God's Word takes a lot of work, more than just 1 or 2 podcast episodes a week. If you have an interest in the intersection between the biblical worldview and biblical manhood and current events, as I do, as well as philosophy, theology, and many, many leather-bound books, consider joining our free online community, the Think Squad group on Facebook, Gab, and on Signal. There you can join hundreds of other Christ followers who are also on the same journey, and we trade apologetic stories and strategies. We discuss philosophy and theological questions. It's like a huge bull session around a bonfire in your backyard or at your favorite cigar lounge. So check out the Think Squad group on Facebook, Gab, and Signal. All right. Welcome to the Think Podcast with Jewel Settecase. My name is Jewel Settecase, and this is the show that aims to equip you to answer current cultural challenges with timeless biblical truth. We're all about helping dads to lead their families in defending the Christian message. So if you don't know me, I am the host of the Think Podcast and the founder and lead teacher of the Think Institute. And the mission of the Think Institute is to equip believers to explain, share, and defend the Christian message. And I'm joined today by some bum off the street. So this is Micah. What are you? I'm joined by my very good friend, Micah Morgan. Micah, why don't you just tell us a little bit about you, who you are, and what you're all about?
Oh, well, yeah. Thanks, Joel. Yeah, we've known each other for goodness, coming up on 3 decades, man.
Yeah, it is, since we were 10.
Yeah, it's crazy. So yeah, my name is Micah Morgan, owner of Red Cloud Contracting. We're a small outfit, residential general contractor and builder, getting into some commercial work as well. Really, our focus and vision is around the customer experience and building good relationships on a foundation of trust. So my work is putting together medium to large scale residential projects and managing as much as I can and get my hands dirty when it works and when I've got the time to, swing the hammer. Family man. I'm married 10 years. My wife, Ceci. I've got 2 kids. Andrew, who's 9, Abby, who's 6. And loving every minute of it, man. It's a trip being a dad, provider of the household, and owner of a business. And so we're busy. Cecia took a full-time teaching position at Aurora Christian School this year, teaching Spanish. We're pretty busy, but
awesome.
But it's good. Yeah, it's good. It's great.
Well, And is this the first time? Is this the first time you've been on, or is this the second?
No, I think this is the first time I've been on the podcast.
Okay. So what you guys may or may not know is that Micah and I every month host a this gathering called Awol, and it's something we've been doing. So here's the thing: it's in a way it's new, and in another way it's quite old. So Micah and I, when we were, what were we? We were 18, right? Were you even 18? You must have been. You weren't?
Full honesty, no, I was not. You guys were, because I've got a birthday in July, so I was always one of the younger.
I was thinking
ones in our class.
All right, so what we would do, I don't even know if I should say. I probably shouldn't say, but I'm going to because it's been a long time. Statute of limitations. With our
yeah, exactly.
So when we were younger, we would go and hang out after hours. The two of us and then another friend. And we would go hang out on Saturday nights, and we would have a great time. We would do, okay. While our peers, this is not to sound self-righteous or whatever, but while our peers were whatever, drinking, smoking up, that kind of stuff, we'd go to the Jewel Osco at like 1 a.m.
Yep.
And we'd go and we'd enjoy the finest Swisher Sweet cigars that Speedway has to offer.
That's right.
and we'd sit outside at the Jewel Osco grocery store and pontificate and bloviate and just have a great time. I'd talk about the world's biggest questions and what's going on in life and just be goofballs, 18-year-olds, 17-year-olds. And we did this for a number of years. We did it. What did we do? We did it. Help me with the history, because we did it before college.
Yeah.
Like senior year.
Yep.
And then senior year was a trip. It was a blast. And then when did we pick it back up again? Because I know we were doing it when we both lived in Aurora years ago as well.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, certainly senior year of high school, and then in college, like during breaks, like,
oh yeah,
winter break and come
That's
home,
right.
or summer for sure. And then, yeah, I mean, there's a period of time in there where, I know you were in Pennsylvania for a little bit, and I was,
PA.
goodness, I was all over the place for a little while there.
Oh yeah.
Moval. Yeah, I was out in Missouri.
Yeah.
For a little bit. Lived in my parents' basement for too many years.
Yeah, that's a rite of passage right there. Everyone has to do it for the millennials.
Heck, man. I mean, it is what it is.
And then we're in our, early 30s or late 20s, we kind of picked it back up.
Yeah, I mean, it's like whenever we, well, I mean, there was a time that we both lived in the city.
Oh, that's true.
So there was some overlap.
Chicago. Dude, I was like crashing at your place for a while.
Yeah, and then
remember?
Yeah, you were crashing over at my place, and then
that was when I met Elisa.
Exactly, and then I ended up moving out of the city for various reasons. We don't have to get into that as to why. And that was basically right when you were starting to like fully invest and move into the city.
That's true.
And then so I moved back out to Aurora for a period of time, and then you guys ended up moving out to Aurora. Gosh, what was that? 2014, 15? Yeah.
Well, it would have been 2013 when we first moved out there. We were out there for 3 years, then we moved back in Chicago.
That's right.
And but basically, so Micah and I have been, for those of you who are watching or listening on the podcast later, we would always, I mean, we'd meet up, we'd hang out, and there were periods of time when we didn't do it. Like any friendship is going to ebb and flow over the years. But recently, so get this. This is what we're bringing on a special guest here in a few minutes, which I'm really looking forward to getting him on here. But what we would do is we'd meet up, and so I live in the Tri-Cities now in Fox Valley. Mike is in the Fox Valley, And I think our houses are like 15 minutes away now, which is about how long it used to take to ride bikes, probably, to each other's house.
That's right.
In the old days. So we'll meet up, and we still call it Awol. Like, we'll meet up, we'll hang out. And it was about a year ago that we're hanging out in your garage, your workshop, and surrounded by, we've got the wood pellet stove and all the tools around, just the manliest possible atmosphere. And just like the wood stove and the tools, and it's bitter cold out, and we're drinking whiskey and hanging out. I think I had my pipe going, and dude, you remember it was like after midnight, we're sitting there talking, and we're like, man, we got to start a fraternal organization. We have to do this.
Yep.
You remember that?
All the best conversations and ideas come well after midnight, for sure.
Absolutely right.
Yes, I do vividly remember that. Yep.
And and it's something we started praying about, talking about. Fast forward 6 months, and you, me, and Tim Smith, who some of the listeners might know, I had him on to talk about how to find and stick with the right church. He's now moved to North Carolina, although I talked to them. I was trying to get in touch with him earlier today about coming on, but he and you and I, as well as Tyler Terdici, we're hosting these groups, Awol, man, and I've got my half sheets with the questions on them, and we're doing it at Tim's Garage Cigar Lounge and your workshop and my bar basement, and these various backyards, and it's like God caused it to happen, and here we are now, about a year later, I guess, if my math is right. Yep. And now we're talking about doing something just unreal, like something that could be even just taking Awol to the next level. But this is what we're talking about today is manhood and community and brotherhood and fellowship. And in that spirit, I'm gonna show you what I'm drinking tonight.
Nice.
Sorry, man. I've been saving this, but I figured. So you bought this and brought it to my house.
I did.
And I'm only supposed to drink it on Awol nights, but
I mean, technically, this is it kind of just a alternate version of Awol.
Yes,
digital Awol. It's fine.
Yes. So
can you pour me some of that in here?
Yeah. Okay, through the screen.
Good. Yeah, give me there you go.
All right, so as we're talking here, good brother Khaldoun has just popped in, and Cal, I'm going to add you to the thing here, and then you can tell a little bit about yourself. Okay, Khaldoun, how are you, brother?
Hello, gentlemen. I'm doing well.
Good. So, Khaldoun, why don't you take a minute and just tell us a little bit about yourself? You've been on the ThinkPod before, and the three of us, of course, get together for Awol nights. But for those who don't know you, who are you and what do you do?
Well, thanks for having me on, Joel. It's a pleasure and an honor as usual. Hello, Micah.
Hey, Cal.
So I do Christian life coaching for men, helping men to become more productive and more helpful for themselves, their environment, and their relationship with God, and primarily becoming more productive members of their society. And that's something I absolutely love doing. I'm also associate professor of philosophy at the city colleges of Chicago. I teach philosophy, ethics, religion, cognitive science, and things of that nature, and actually get away with it. I love it.
That's awesome, man. How long have you been teaching at city colleges?
It's been about, almost 14 years now, man.
Incredible. And Dr. Sweis has been, he's come to a couple of different like pre-Awol type gatherings that I've done in the past, but recently started coming to Awol, and I got to say, the three of us, along with a couple of other guys, but we've been, the Lord is doing something here, because there's a vision that we all share, and I'm sure we'll get into it as we talk, but there's a vision for fostering real authentic community among guys, among men, fathers and aspiring fathers, men who want to live for the Lord, applying biblical principles to every arena of life. And it's like this vision that the three of us, that God, I think, has given us, if I can say that, I think that's the case. And so tonight, originally Micah and I we were going to talk about applying biblical principles to just different arenas of life. And but Khaldoun, once I knew you could come on, I figured we really should talk about manhood and fellowship and community. And why don't we just start there? What would you guys say, like, what's the state of brotherhood among men? And even if you want to get more specific, Christian men today?
Well, I mean, I think it's pretty isolated. I think part of the culture, just sort of, at least in my experience, kind of conditions us to, pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps and, get out there and, get it done ourselves. And so in terms of, having community and having a group of brothers around, it's, apart from like just some sort of like country club version or a bunch of drinking buddies and stuff. I mean, there's not enough, opportunities for men to get together and really go deep. And I've been fortunate, to be a part of not just, Awol and, Joel, what you've been doing, with the Think Institute and things like that. But a few years back, I got involved with an organization. It's a Christian-based, faith-based organization called the Crucible Project, which does definitely help in regards to that community of believers. It's not affiliated with any one church. It's kind of a side note. I mean, church, depending on which church you go to, I know churches try. I've been a part of some really good groups in church. But as far as where I've personally been able to find a lot of that intimate connection where I can be completely vulnerable and safe and loved and accepted. The Crucible Project has been a big part of that. Joel, I think you're muted.
I was muted. Cal, have you heard of the Crucible Project?
I have not.
Yeah. So, really where to start. So I know it's been around for probably almost 20 years. And so essentially what it does, it starts off on a men's retreat on a weekend. And I can't say everything that happens on the weekend, because if I was going to try to describe it, it would be, it'd be hard to understand. It's kind of one of those things it's experiential. You got to go through it. And I went through it 4 years ago. And so I went into the weekend wanting to find contentment and peace. I was going through some things in my marriage and personally. And what I was able to do on the weekend with the other men that were there, both participants and staff members, which was I think there was like 37 participants and like 40 staff members. So it's very heavily supported. Dang. Yeah, it's pretty intense, was for me at least. And I was able to really bring some things out and literally work on them and get the support from the other men. And so it was a life-changing experience. And then out of that weekend, then you're sort of open to other resources and opportunities within that. So I've been a part of a growth group. I've staffed a few weekends. They have like second level weekends where they focus on things like leadership and mission, sexuality. And it's just a radical way. It's just something that you don't typically find, and I haven't necessarily seen in church. Not to say that you couldn't, or that this is the only way to do it. It's just something that's really been impactful in my life. And so when we're talking about community and especially manhood, and I'm trying to remember one of the things they share in the initial weekend is like the goals of TCP, or the Crucible Project, is to I think it's recover the masculine soul or something like that. So it's very much geared towards what does it mean to model being a man of Christ, and 4 different quadrants, one being king, lover, warrior, and sage, and kind of how those and some of this stuff is
it's so cool, man. It's like medieval.
Yeah, it's
like a guild. It's like
yeah,
for sure. Khaldoun, how similar is that to what you do with Logically Faithful with your life coaching?
Yeah, well, life coaching is similar to what you're talking about here. It sounds like a wonderful organization. I'd love to hear more about it and how that works. Yeah, sure. Well, what I do is there's a lot with the current state of men today, which we could touch back on and go back to this question, of course. The advent of the strong egalitarian movement within contemporary culture, specifically now with the American Psychological Association pushing very hard to destabilize traditional notions of masculinity. I'm going to say Judeo-Christian notions of masculinity.
Yeah.
That is now, quote, toxic.
That's right. You read their list of what counts as toxic masculinity. It's like, oh, shoot.
Masculinity in culture is what we're talking about. Yeah. Or tear down the patriarchy and replace it. But what do you replace it with?
It's like
it's very sad.
It's like I'm reading the list. It's like, oh, those are all the things I want to be. That's like what I aspire to.
So you wonder with this stuff, when you tear down the centerpiece of civilization, which is the patriarchal system, it's the men who built up the very infrastructure of society, are the men who work behind the scenes, the construction workers, the guardians of the city, the Marines, the National Guard, the ones who construct and uplift, the ones who provide the ideological roots of society are for men. And men are willing to take risks and die for that. That's one of the reasons men die younger than women, generally speaking. It's because we're willing to stand up there and take the heat and be the people that God calls us to be. Now, there are extremes of that, and there are people who abuse that, like with any system. And of course, modern feminism has capitalized on that abuse and took it up to the limelight with the Me Too movement and things of that nature, which have destabilized the very notion of what it means to be a man, which has enabled the LGBTQ movement, and now the transgender movement. And now even in the city of Chicago, just announced last week, the Chicago public schools are allowing no distinction between bathrooms. Now it's girls plus, men plus, or whoever it is.
Unreal.
Insanity at this level is troubling and damaging to the next generation. The fact many of us can't even stand up to even define what a man is. And one last thing that's troubling to me is the suicide rate of men is 3 times that of women. And I venture to say it's probably doubled during COVID. CDC has not released those results yet.
Wow. Is that right? Yeah, I remember seeing a graphic that came out a few years ago, maybe 2 years ago. It said something like 25% of all suicides are women. That's far too much. And someone pointed out, so you're saying that 75% of suicides are men? That seems like you're kind of missing the point of it's all tragic, obviously, and horrific, but you're kind of missing the point here. But But does that point up? Is there an anti-male bias in our society? You know, Micah, even with what you were saying about one of the goals, or maybe the central goal of the Crucible Project, what is it? Recovering? No,
something like that.
Recovering the soul of.
I should look it up. I'm looking it up right
Man,
now.
I mean, that to me,
like recovering the masculine soul.
Yeah.
Something to that effect.
I mean, that right there tells you that something has been lost. You wouldn't have to recover it if it hadn't been lost.
That's right.
You know, and so, why don't we?
But this is interesting, Joel, because it does take an epistemological loss of an understanding of the definition for us to reestablish what that definition is and re-empower it and bring back men to a biblical notion of manhood. It's kind of like what Bart Ehrman did in the apologetics community on the biblical manuscripts issue. His books on popularization of the ancient issues that Christians have struggled with for decades.
Yeah.
And brought up to the common vernacular the problem in the biblical manuscripts issues, and people are troubled by that. The problem is Christians have already known this issue, right. But many have been already indoctrinated with the ideas that of culture that these manuscripts cause a destabilization in the very doctrine of Christianity, and they don't.
So are you saying that
for years? But the problem, he brought those problems out in a way that brought men out of the shadows to begin to defend it, become stronger about popularizing how to bring those defense of the biblical manuscripts in ways that they have never done before.
That's good.
This destabilization of what it means to be a man is actually a good thing for many men who are living in the shadows and not standing up. We're coming out of the shadows now. And now you're making a difference. You're waking up some sleeping giants.
Yeah. I love it, man. I love it. Are either of you guys familiar with Michael Foster at all? Does that name ring any bells?
It rings a bell. I'm not familiar with.
Okay. So Michael Foster is a guy. I actually had him on my show last year, or maybe earlier this year. We talked about patriarchy, and it's a term that he does not shy away from. But he and another guy, D. Non-Tenant, who I don't know where he's from, but they have this organization called It's Good to Be a Man, which the name kind of says it all there, and Michael Foster talks a lot about reestablishing patriarchy, and the way he defines it, you really do. You listen to him define the term patriarchy, and you get the sense, that actually doesn't sound like anything objectionable. That actually sounds fantastic. In all seriousness, that doesn't sound like something that it would be good to smash. You know, all the feminists want to smash the patriarchy. It's like men leading their families, men establishing households that further the kingdom of God, that kind of thing. And Khaldoun. So here's the connection. Here's a connection that'll put Michael Foster's work into context for you. Okay. So, recently you and I went up to Wisconsin for the County Before Country conference, and that was put on by Pastor Matt Truhella.
Yes.
There was another one of those conferences. We went to the Express Talks. There was a main conference that happened a couple months ago in Ohio, and Michael Foster was one of the keynote speakers at that conference. So he's connected with the whole County Before Country movement, talking about localism, local activism, and so so that kind of ties in with his idea of restoring the household with, man is the head, the husband is, and the father is the head of the household, and then sort of expanding that out locally into your community and saying, okay, now make a difference in your community through local institutions and, all the stuff that they talked about in that podcast. Mm-hmm. So
I wonder, how did he define patriarchy that you found helpful? Because I just, you're doing a quick search on Google, which is extremely egalitarian, and by all the ideological nonsense of the ethos of the day, says that patriarchy is an exclusion. Hear this.
Yeah.
Society or government in which men hold the power and women are largely excluded from it.
Right.
Which is not only categorically false,
right,
but it's ideologically pandering to this LGBT and this ADA or APA smashing of the masculine and replacing it with what?
Right. Yeah. So here's how they define it on their website. They say, our mission is to develop the knowledge, virtues, and skills necessary to rightly order ourselves and our world as men. We call this gendered piety, And that's actually not that's not what I was looking for. So in the beginning of their podcast, they say something like, we are seeking to expand God's rule and reign through godly households. Man, I'm gonna have to look that up. But the gist of it is, and I don't know it word for word. I'm going off my memory here, but the gist of it is, God is our Father, and we extend God's kingdom into the world through godly households that are rightly ordered, with the father as the head of the household. And because it's a podcast for men, it goes into great detail on how to do that in various aspects. And so it's cool. I wouldn't say it's there are a lot of guys out there who are just sort of knee-jerk reaction to feminism, and they're maybe more anti-feminist than they are pro-patriarchy or pro-manliness and pro-manhood, pro-godly manhood. These guys, my take on what they're doing is they're trying to establish a positive view, a positive form of patriarchy. It's not a knee-jerk thing. It's not a reactionary. It definitely flies in the face of popular culture, and as you said, Khaldoun, the egalitarianism that is rampant. It flies in the face of that insofar as it's establishing something that cuts totally against the grain. It's establishing something positive.
Right.
And, it's putting up a lighthouse and the waves are hitting the lighthouse, but they're not out there trying to beat back the waves. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does, yeah. And if I may here, in the interest of trying to understand the other side's perspective on this, a lot of women have been marginalized throughout history and have the feet of men on their proverbial necks, so to speak, for generations.
Right. Yeah.
Wondering why that is. And I think the distinction and the nuance need to be made on this. And as in philosophical insights, one of the things you need to do is define your terms. And when you define a term, you're able first to be able to analyze it properly and to exegete what that means in the different levels. So when we say that women are oppressed or men are pushing women down, what do you mean by that? And what you find is that women are not getting the same opportunities on there. But what they do is they confuse and convolute the difference between opportunity of outcome, and then you have, a place of opportunity for women to act in culture, and outcomes. There's a difference between the two. And when women have an opportunity to be able to become scholars, become scientists, become mathematicians, which they do, especially in the STEM fields, pumped millions of dollars at the City Colleges of Chicago, where I teach, into specifically empowering women to get into these fields. And they're still not coming in. But they're coming in, but they're not staying. They're not lasting long. Now, the opportunities are there. The outcomes is what the strong feminists are waiting for, and the outcomes are not the same. The problem is they're not waiting for these outcomes to see how they pan out in other areas, such as the prison population. Men out number woman there. We want the same outcomes there, don't we? How about in construction? How about in sewer work? Cleaning out the city sewers of the metropolitan cities of the slums of the planet. Yeah. You want men there? What about that? Why can't we have women there as well in addition to men? I mean, you want to equal things out, don't you? How about the military, front lines? Some of them are trying to do that, but the vast majority of women are saying, no, we don't want that. It sounds good on paper, but in reality, no.
So in a world that, we already talked about the toxic masculinity piece, how, the egalitarianism that's rampant. I mean, you mentioned Google, one of the world's largest companies, clearly biased in favor of the egalitarian mindset. And when I say egalitarian, for me, the way I'm defining that, again, Cal, you mentioned define our terms. When I'm thinking egalitarian, I'm thinking eliminating or attempting to erase any ontological differences between male and female. Anything that is like naturally different about us. In other words, the egalitarian mindset taken to its logical conclusion, it might start in something like hey, it's we need more women CEOs, for example. But then where it ends up is in this these cultural trends now where you see like literally men are women, women are men. Not only can they do the same thing, but there is no difference. And so this is the toxic and very perverse and ironic piece of all this is what ends up happening is because you've blurred that line. Now you've got men competing in women's quote unquote sports because there's no difference, right? So they should be able to compete equally. But of course that doesn't happen. The men dominate and athletically destroy these women. And sometimes you look at a sport like MMA and they just brutalize these women.
Mhm.
And it's tragic. It's very upsetting. And so when I'm talking about egalitarian, I'm talking about the worldview that encompasses all of that and everything that it entails. But so I know there's different ways we could go about this, but one of the things that the three of us, I think, are very passionate about, if that's the right word for it, is establishing manhood community, male community. I don't know a good way to put that. Brotherhood, fellowship, brotherly fellowship, the fellowship of the T, the testosterone. I don't know what you'd say. So, Micah, you do the Crucible. You do the you obviously you and I have been doing AWOL for a long time. What do you think are some of the in your experience, what creates a good environment for friendship, masculine friendship, for manly brotherhood and fellowship? What are some of those essentials?
Essentials for developing intimate male friendships?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know I know what we've done. I know what our friendships lasted, quite a while. And, it all started with a similar interest in music and the fact that both of our names are, Old Testament prophets, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So, yeah, I think it's, where I've experienced that, that unity, I guess, or, we're there, you really feel that like everybody's pulling on the same rope kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which is just like I said, kind of going back to the weekends that I've been a part of. I mean, there's guys that I've never met, but they've all been through that weekend. We're all there staffing and about to bring in, a new group of participants. It's like, despite differences in personality or, even politics or, things like that, it's like we all have a common goal that we're all working for and kind of fighting for. It's almost like the front lines. Like we're going, we've got that warrior energy, and we're going to go and accomplish something, and I think that like you had mentioned earlier, like a year ago, we were talking and we're like, hey, we should, really consider putting something together where we can, bring men together that are all sharing that same vision and value, and again, kind of all pulling on the same rope and supporting each other doing it. Because that's the thing, we can't do this alone. I know. I've tried multiple times. I probably even fell back into it, this week with just stuff at work or whatever, and not calling you or heck, I know I can reach out to Khaldoun or, any of my other group members and friends and people from church. It's just, so I think it's important that, as men, Christian men, obviously we know who our model is, and
who?
Jesus Christ, man. He's
I like to make things very explicit.
Hey, you got to do it, man.
Amen.
Absolutely. And, yeah. And so that's, I don't know what more to add. I think that answers the question.
That's great, Micah. And we're not made to be alone.
That's right.
One of the first things God said to Adam was, it's not good for the man to be alone. Mm-hmm. I think that it's not just talking about his exegetically in that particular passage is referring to the woman that completes his manness or masculinity. Mm-hmm. But generally speaking, we're not made to walk the walk alone. Right. Even Christ sent out his disciples 2 by 2, and he commanded us to not forsake gathering together of the saints, because a lion, who the devil is called, prowls about, like a roaring lion, looking from whom he may devour. And who does he pick out? The ones that are alone. Right. The people that are alone. They're easy to pick out. They're easily weak, they're empty, or they're tired. That's why they're alone, or they're just moving away from the pack.
Yeah, that's good.
Right.
So that's good. We need to be there. And that goes back to a book I read a number of years ago. And this is something I do in my own coaching practice to encourage men about. It's called The Hidden Life of Trees. And the author was talking about a tree itself is only as strong as the forest it is in. We are only as strong as the people we gather around us. I don't know if you heard the old dictum, you are the summary of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Yeah, I've heard that. Mm-hmm.
Well, it's very similar to our psychology. Even our accents, how we speak, is how the people around us we speak like them, we think like them, we eat like them, we laugh at their jokes. The people you spend time with form your character. That's why it's essential to be around people who want the best for you and who are better than you and who are uplifting you to the sun above you, like the tree.
Yeah, that's good. And Micah, you mentioned that Jesus is the ultimate example of this. Jesus is the ultimate example, not only of manhood, but you think about the amazing example that Jesus did set, because he surrounded himself with community, 12 guys, one of whom was a traitor, 11 of whom never fully understood what he was talking about until after he had risen from the dead. You look at these guys, which, by the way, is one of the best evidences that the New Testament is recording historical fact, because the authors are not trying to make themselves look good. They look like buffoons half the time. And that you wouldn't have that if they were prevaricating, if they were lying. So, but Jesus surrounded himself with 12 guys. And I read this meme recently. It said, one of the most overlooked miracles of Jesus is how he was able to assemble 12 friends in his early 30s. If you think about it, that's miraculous, but this is what we're trying to, in a perfect world. And I know we're broadcasting right now and this is going out on the podcast, but I wanted to sit down with you guys anyway, because this is what I want to foster. I mean, this idea of strong, unapologetically manly community for dads, for aspiring dads. And I say aspiring dads because I think every Christian man, there's unless you're given the gift of celibacy, and praise the Lord if you are, but most of us are aspiring to have kids, to have a legacy, whether they're natural born, whether they're adopted. And Micah, you're adopted. My dad is adopted. But me personally, I want to foster that kind of community. And so this is what you guys and I have been talking about the last few, I don't know, weeks, month, something like that. I think where we're at right now, in the planning that we've done behind the scenes, I think that we share a vision. I think we've established that. I think that where we're maybe a little bit hung up isn't the right word, but where we're in a holding pattern right now is in how to execute the vision. Because starting a group like this, I mean, you wish it would happen organically, but the fact is we do have families, we do have jobs, we do have callings in our lives. We've got other organizations that we're a part of. We've got local churches. The three of us do not belong to the same local church, right? So all this life gets in the way. So there is going to have to be a certain level of organization and intentionality there. Have you guys given any more thought over the last couple of weeks on some of those next steps in terms of, formally starting an organization like this? What do you see as being the next steps? Do you think that I'm right in my assessment, or am I off about something?
I've been thinking about it and trying to see how that's going to work. And one of the ways I found in doing things is to not try to reinvent the wheel. Like Michael talking about, there's other organizations that have been doing well and others have fallen. Some are secular in their orientation, such as the Warrior Project. Others are Christian in our orientation, such as the Warrior Heart, or the Heart of the Warrior. John Edwards, Wild at Heart. That's what it is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But there are many Christian organizations in that realm. I think we can just tap into and do some research specifically on what is it that's successful in some of these. and see where God leads us as we learn from how they learned and how they failed, so we can do better.
Yeah. That's good.
And
That's
that
good.
what I should do, and we need some administrative work, people who are skilled in that route.
Yeah. So if you're watching this or you're listening later on and you're like, man, I want to be a part of a Christ-centered, unapologetically manly community and fellowship. And by the way, bonus points if you live in the Chicagoland area, because that's where the three of us are located. But if you've got those, what would we say, administrative skills, where you're skilled in the practical execution of things. Listen, hit me up. You can get in touch with me, thethink.institute/contact. I'll put it up on the screen. And this is definitely something that we're looking to expand, something that we're looking to grow and foster. And guys, just so you know, here in Geneva, and I don't know how you feel about Geneva, but the longer I live here, I've been here for a year now in this area. And I go into downtown Geneva from time to time. And man, I love it. And every now and then I pass by a vacant storefront or building, especially one that's for sale. And my mouth starts to water a little bit. And I'm like, this could be the study center. This could be the place, because we haven't talked about it on the show yet, but that's the dream for me, is to have a physical location where we can get guys together to drink coffee, maybe share a meal, smoke a cigar, smoke a pipe, all the stuff that we've been doing with Awol. And, Khaldoun, you can have your 2 sips of beer. And I know that's you prefer your beer 2 sips at a time. And we get, physically together, because virtual is good. Don't get me wrong. This is all well and good. It's better than nothing. But man, nothing beats sitting down face to face. And if someone says something funny, just being able to laugh in their presence, slap someone on the back. Someone says something stupid, you give them a quick punch to the arm real quick. Like there's something very, very good, very real about being in person. And that is the goal, I think, is having that study center with the library and the cigar patio and the coffee bar. And I don't know. Is that the dream? What do you guys think?
I think so. I think it's wonderful. What I do in Logical Faithful and my ministry to men and Christian life coaching is help empower men to be. I have a bunch of P's that I worked with, and I shared this with you guys in the past. And I think we can incorporate some of that and maybe expand on it in different ways, and to elucidate that in different ways that may help. And I hope this is encouraging to some of you guys. What I do is, when I work with individual men, is first we define what a man is, get that masculinity issue clear, and from there unpack the roles of what a man ought to do, biblically speaking, grounded in natural law, backed up by psychology and the cutting edge research there. And these are the ones that I have. A man is to be the provider, protector, prophet, priest, and ultimately patriarch of his family. And to do that in a way that honors the community, where he is more productive, brings more peace, and brings more passion to those around him. And if you can do that in a way that is helpful and encouraging, you can transform your families and your culture around you and yourself.
Michael, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean that's good stuff, man. I would fully agree with all of that. And yeah, I mean, whether I may not necessarily be conscious of those specific words, but as I think about, like, when I get up to do whatever it is that I got to do today or tomorrow or whatever, I mean, those are the things that it's like, that's what I'm working towards.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in terms of, a study center or a location or something like that. Yeah, I think there's a couple ways to go about doing it. It's almost like at what point do we just, like, Like, because you could be in the planning stage for a decade.
Oh, easily. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like, what's the minimum things here?
Yeah.
That we really
that wasn't one of
need?
Khaldoun's P's though. Planning.
What's that? What's
Endless
that?
planning. Endless planning was not one of the P's.
Yeah, we just added another two.
Right.
Planning property.
yeah, planning and property.
Yeah, it's at some point you got to be practical, right? You gotta pursue. You know, you gotta.
Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, right. I mean, to some degree, it's like when we got the. I mean, the passion's there, the vision's there, but here's the thing: the vision's going to change. Yeah. It's going to be refined, right? Yeah. I mean, the core of whatever that vision is, I'm. That's probably going to stay consistent. But
you think we just need to pull the trigger?
I mean, it's I think probably a few more discussions with because here's the thing I know I have something that's going inside that's saying like, yeah, this is what I want to do. You're the one that Joel that had brought it to us with kind of the grand vision.
Yeah,
I know I can help with some of the practical stuff, even some of the administrative stuff. I mean, that's what I do in my job, dude.
I know that's true. That's what you do.
Project manager, dude. I manage large scale projects, multiple players involved. I mean, yes, okay, I could be that individual because that's what I do. So yeah, my bottom line, what I'm saying is, yeah, at some point, if this is something that we really, I mean, let me know whatever that space is next time you see it.
Yeah. Okay. So I will definitely let you know. And I will say this too. So there's another P that I've got in my mix, which is podcast. And, I'm over the next 6 months, I am very committed to growing the ThinkPod. And there's some things I'm going to be sharing with our ministry partners. We've got an end of the year letter going out tomorrow, Lord willing, and I'm going to be talking about that with our ministry supporters. But there's a program that I'm going to be entering the ThinkPod into to grow the podcast, because I do think we have something very special. I do think that for the guys who listen regularly, who know the show. I do think that they're getting up. If I dare say so, and this is all by God's grace, as you guys know, I'm not sitting here tooting my own horn, but I do think that guys benefit from it. And I think that there's a value in men getting equipped to answer current cultural challenges with timeless biblical truth, and to be equipped to lead their family in defending the Christian message. And so growing the podcast is definitely an aim that I have. Here's what I'm hoping for. What I'm hoping for is that the two are going to work well together. This idea of this patriarchally minded fraternal organization and study center, and the podcast. You think of it in terms of a body and a voice, or something like that. You've got the organization, you've got the physical location, and the podcast is the voice where we broadcast the message of this. It's what I'm trying to do with the Think Institute, what I'm trying to do with the Hammer and Anvil Society, which is our applied discipleship wing. But there will be a physical for it. And I'm hoping that by growing the podcast, we get more guys excited about it, more guys who want to join up, who are willing to pay another a price, whatever that might be, but to be invested in it. And guys, let me go on a quick soapbox rant here for a second, because I've got some statistics, and I think that we need to really keep these statistics in mind to add a little context, because we don't just want community for its own sake. Here's why I'm passionate about community. There's another P that Khaldoun mentioned earlier. Passion. Okay. Proverbs, another P. Proverbs 22:6 says, "Start a youth out on his way. Even when he grows old, he will not depart from it." The stats absolutely back that up. Of dads who attend church regularly, their children, 67 to 75% of their kids become church growers when they grow up. When dads don't attend church, just 25 to 33% of their children become churchgoers. And churchgoers is defined loosely here. It's like once a month, something like that, or like even like semi-regularly, maybe even less than once a month. But when it comes to church attendance, which is not definitive, but at least an indicator of spiritual life and spiritual health and spiritual growth. Again, because community matters. Khaldoun, as you said, we're not meant to be alone. So that is an indicator. There, someone might say, yeah, okay, fine. But, are things really, is the need really that dire in our world right now where this needs to be a major focus? Okay. According to Barna research in 2018, I might have shared this with you guys. In 2018, just 9% of Americans had a worldview that was fully guided by the Bible.
Sorry about it. Give me a moment, guys.
Okay. In 2019, the number dropped from 9% to 5%. And hold on. Okay. Cal, are you good? Do you want me to
I'm good. Go ahead.
Okay. While people normally think of America as a Christian nation, and yes, our founding principles are absolutely Christian, and anyone can fight me on that. I'll be happy to defend it. But in reality, we are no longer an actual Christian nation. So when Barack Obama said that a few years ago, he was sadly, infuriatingly correct. Today, 2.7 million people leave the church every year. About 200 million Americans are completely unchurched. There are 10 states where 96% of the population are unreached and unchurched. And America today, the United States of America, is the fourth largest unchurched nation in the world. So it might surprise people sometimes that Elisa and I are missionaries here in the United States, but the United States is the fourth most, statistically speaking, the fourth most important mission field in the world. And when you think about the way that culture starts here and gets pumped around the world, you might arguably say that this is the most important mission field. And so now you think about, how does culture change? Khaldoun, I know you know this. Micah, I know we've talked about this. Culture changes from cultus, which is worship. Worship, we've just seen, is defined by what the family does, and the family is ultimately led by the head of the family, which is the dad. So how do we fix the state of the American church? And how do we therefore make a massive impact on Christianity around the world? We reach men. We reach dads. For me, that's the Think podcast. I play a very small role in this, but I think it's a vital role. I think we can say the same thing for all of us. It's the Think podcast. It's this organization that we're working on fostering. It's the study center. This is what we want to see happen. Is we want to see men come together, get strengthened, not just for the sake of, getting stronger so that we can flex our spiritual muscles, although that's good. Physical muscles are good too. But then we go back to our households as loving servant patriarchs and lead our families closer to Jesus Christ. And I think that changes the world.
That's some powerful information you shared there, brother. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. And when a man falls, the consequences are devastating for those around him, and it's very heavy. When a man is uplifted, it's also, the consequences are also positive, because he leaves that the scent of an ability to be able to provide for those people around him intellectually, psychologically, spiritually, in ways that only he can. Yeah, when he's not equipped to deal with the stuff that's coming down the pike, like critical race theory or Marxism, social Marxism, and other ideological things that are questionable. That's like a new age or secularism and things of that nature. How do we address those? And if we're not equipped, and if we have a group of people around us who can help us and equip us and challenge us and encourage us, we can do that to our own families and those in our circles.
How do we get equipped for that stuff? I know I'm talking about that stuff. Khaldoun, I know you're dealing with a lot of that stuff. Where does the I hate to say that we're all normal guys. We're all average guys. But where does the average unseminary educated Christian man go to get equipped on this stuff?
They don't. That's probably the problem. I mean, somebody would say that's probably what the church should be doing. Not, we like the church that we go to, but
yeah, me too.
It has a different focus it's very welcoming and open. Not to say that it's like ultra progressive, that they're flying a rainbow flag or anything, but they're they're good at attracting people.
I've been there. I can vouch for that.
Yeah, and they're pretty biblically solid, man. I mean, they share the gospel, and that as far as anything that I know, when I read the Bible, nothing is blaring that this is unbiblical.
Mm-hmm.
But what we're talking about here in terms of like, not just being spiritually strengthened or fed, which is what I know I get when I go to church and being a part of that community. And I know I want to be more involved in serving and being plugged in there. But as far as some of these other really important issues, there's an element to, like you said, of training and equipping that I'm not necessarily getting there, which is something I know that I've noticed as we've been talking about kind of what's going on out there in the world, and how are we formulating our defense against this stuff, and then taking that to our families, and us with kids, like how are we explaining this stuff to them? Because if we're not teaching them, who's going to teach them?
The world.
Exactly. And that's
Satan.
Right. That, I know I don't want that, but I don't know. I think of some other guys, and I've invited them to Awol, Christian guys, and like that whole, kind of isolation, I kind of got this mentality. They're just not, they're not interested. It's like, I told the guy the other day, I'm like, look, if you want me to stop inviting you, man, just let me know. I'll take you off the text.
Yeah.
He's like, well, and just, I don't know. I can't.
There are a lot of people, Micah, who don't care, who are caught up in the ideologies of the world, who are drinking from the world's cup, drinking the Kool-Aid, the cultural Kool-Aid. Some are getting drunk on it, and some are licking the cup, man.
Yeah.
It's pathetic, some of the stuff. But some of them don't realize it. But we're not after those guys. We're after the ones who are thirsty for righteousness, for holiness, for truth. And what you do, as Jesus said, my sheep hear my voice. We present the message for those who are interested and who are hungry, who are thirsty, are called out of it. Now, and they're the ones who make a difference. If I may, there's something here. I read a forward to this. This is years ago. You may be familiar with this. Neil Postman, in his book, Entertaining Ourselves to Death.
Oh, yeah.
The forward to that book is worth the entire book itself. It's a detailed analysis of the culture of his day back in the 80s or 70s, excuse me. And he talked about the distinction between two extremes, which if I may put those out there, I think this is incredible. He said that there are two extremes in dealing with knowledge and learning. One of them is triviality of the knowledge, and the other is the banning of or the restriction of that knowledge. And how you break this down is just profound in how he does it in his introduction to the Amusing Ourselves to Death. And what he does is he lays out two different versions of it. One is from Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, and the other is from Orwell's 1984. Here's how he puts it. What Orwell feared were those who would ban books. What Huxley feared was that there would be no reason to ban a book, for there would be no one who would want to read one. Orwell feared those who would deprive us of information. Huxley feared those who would give us so much information that we would be reduced to passivity and egoism. Orwell feared the truth would become concealed from us. Huxley feared the truth would be drowned in a sea of irrelevance. Orwell feared we would become a captive culture. Huxley feared we would become a trivial culture, preoccupied with the equivalent of the feelies and the bubblies of the emotions. As Huxley remarked in A Brave New World Revised, the civil libertarians and rationalists who are ever on alert to oppose tyranny fail to take into account man's almost infinite appetite for distraction. In 1984, Huxley added, people are controlled by inflicting pain. In Brave New World, they are controlled by inflicting pleasure. In short, Orwell feared that what we hate will ruin us. Huxley feared what we love will ruin us. This book is about the possibility that Huxley, not Orwell, was right. And as men, we can get caught up in these two extremes.
Yeah. That's sobering, man. That's very sobering.
Yeah, for sure.
I think we have to be very intentional as men, very strategic and very committed, because yeah, you know, as you're reading that, as I'm thinking about this, it is very easy for us as men to withdraw into a world of entertainment or oh man, what was that?
Comfort?
Yeah. Comfort through distraction.
Yeah, the seduction of the entertainment, right?
Yeah. Because the fact of the matter is, look, we work hard all day on our best days. We work hard and we come home and we feel as though, me personally, I know I'm very tempted to feel, hey, listen, I've earned it. I've earned it. My time is my own. And yeah, I could read that book over there. You know, I could read that book, or I could watch this episode. And guess what? The episode's a lot easier to do than reading that book and having to digest all those ideas. And you know, I could read my Bible. I could spend extra time in prayer today, or I could surf this news website and see all these horrible things that you know, the lefties are doing. And they're doing horrible things. Don't get me wrong. It's not like it's false, but there's this mindset as a man that you know, my time is my own and I work hard on the things I'm supposed to do. I don't want to take that extra effort. I don't want to make that extra effort and better myself beyond what I'm required to do. And Jesus himself called out this attitude. He said, how many of you, if you have a servant or a slave and you know, they work in the field, then they come in and they you know, they get you your dinner and whatnot. And after they've served you, which is, you know, that's their employment, that's what they're supposed to do. How much are you then going to go, oh, good, you know, good job. Now just, you know, relax and you know, take the rest of the day off. It's like, no, the servant has only done what he's required to do. And Jesus uses very harsh language. He says something like, you know, you're nothing but a, wow, shoot, I want to make sure I get Jesus' words right. But basically what Jesus said is, look, you've only done what you're required to do. You don't get a trophy for that. That's your job, you know? So, you know, for me, that's very sobering as a man, because I have to realize, I have to remind myself, when I've done what's required of me for ministry, when I've done, quote unquote, what's required of me with my family, let's say I've led them in family worship. Let's say that I've prayed with them. Let's say that I've spent quality time with them and now they're in bed. According to Jesus, I've only done what I'm required to do. That does not make me some kind of above and beyond superior, you know, wonderful patriarchal man of the house. That's that's bottom level baseline. So I don't get to now just slack off, and nothing wrong with rest and recuperation, recreation. That's good. But I don't get to waste my time as this, you know, superior exemplar man because I've earned it. I've only now done my baseline duty. And so I'm not talking about specific duties. You know, we should all be doing this every day. I'm just talking about, for me, the mindset of this Aldous Huxley amusing, or Fahrenheit 450. Is that Fahrenheit 451? Is that Huxley? You know, this idea that no. Who wrote, what did Huxley write?
Brave New World. Brave
New World. Thank you. Yes, that's right. So this idea that I now just get to be entertained and slack off because I've earned it. That's an idea that's foreign. I think it should be foreign to the mindset of a biblically minded man. You think I'm going too hard on that?
For those who are consumed in the pleasure of the world and distractions and not doing the things for their families, yes. But there's a level there when you can become your own tyrant, so to speak. And when you do that, you
Okay.
lose a sense of passion and purpose, and you lose joy. And you don't want to lose the joy in the Lord in your own spirit. So I think there is time for rest and relaxation, as you rightly articulated. As much as I make time to work, I need to make time to cultivate the garden of romance with my wife if I have one. I need to make time to cultivate the relationship I have with my boys individually or with my girls. And I need to make time to play and enjoy and spend time with guys and to relax and take my hat off or take my pipe, kick back, watch an episode or read a book or do something that's enjoyable. So I think there's time for everything. There's a time for every season under the sun, and a wise man is able to articulate and to divide that time into his life, because we only live one time on this earth that God has given us, and we, as Moses said, we need to be able to be wise guards of our time. And number our days is what he says in the Psalms.
Yeah, it kind of makes me think like, old and, towards the end of my time here, what am I going to reflect on? Am I going to think, man, I really should have binged that show, or you know what I mean? Right. It's like, no, probably not. I'm probably going to look back and say, man, I should have spent more time, with my kids when they were in those formative ages, when it was, it was really, really important, or, shared my faith with the people that I work with, or spent more time in the Word or in prayer, things like that. And I know for sure I'm absolutely guilty of that. After a long work day, and I work in construction, so some days are certainly harder than others, and I'm tired. Sometimes the last thing I want to do is pull out a book, and my body's stressed. I don't want to stress out my mind. It's the only thing I have left, so I just turn it off and watch, a show or whatever, and just pass out. But it's interesting because I have been feeling a sense of conviction about that. It's like, I feel God telling me, like, Micah, watching this show is not really going to do much for you in the long run. And it's not really, it's for purposes of entertainment or comfort or pleasure, or of avoidance of any additional stress, because think about it. That's what growth is. Any growth doesn't come without some sort of stressor. It's like, when you go lift weights at the gym and you want to, get your body in fit shape, or whatever kind of exercises you're doing puts a level of stress on your body. I would imagine the same type of thing for the mind, for intellectual things, or emotionally speaking, and working through things that allow emotional maturity, which is a lot of what I was talking about earlier with the Crucible Project. Is it really works on the emotions, but it's hard work. It takes dedication. It takes conviction and passion and a desire to want to change. And as I think about some of these men that I've invited to Awol and to other things, that it's like, nope, man, I'm good where I'm at, kind of thing.
Right.
It's like, man, like, I know I don't want to ever just get to that point. Like, that's not my destination, is just to get to a point where, like, no, I'm good now. When I'm dead, when I'm with the Lord, like, that's when I'll be okay. I'm good now.
Yeah, and let's not forget too, Cal, I hear what you're saying about being your own tyrant, and I think my wife can vouch that I definitely veer towards that from time to time, maybe too many times. But there is a way of living with that eternal destiny in mind, because the things that we do, we understand as believers that the things that we do right now in this life, with the limited days that we have, because Moses said, teach us to number our days. He also said our years are 70 or maybe 80 by reason of strength. So it's like 70 or 80 years is not a long time. And the things that we do in this life do impact our eternity. And not only our eternity, but the eternity of others. There might be somebody watching or listening to our very conversation right now at this moment. And it could be 10 years from now. We don't know. And they're listening and they're hearing about the things that we're talking about. It may have an impact on them. We just don't know. And so what the rest and relaxation and recreation, I think is very, very good. And I never want to downplay that. I really don't. But what I want to fight against in my own self is slothfulness. It's, that old the seven deadly sins, one of them is sloth. I'm not Roman Catholic. I don't know about these things. Okay. But one of those sins is sloth. And I'm talking about the kind of faux rest that's not really rest, that vegging out that actually doesn't leave you any more rested. I can read a novel before bed and I can be rested. My mind is sort of, yes, it's active, but it's transport. When I read Tolkien with my kids, Khaldoun, you heard me talk about that with my kids the other day. I read Tolkien with my kids before bed. That's a restful experience. I got my kids around me. I'm reading this fantasy novel where we're all transported to another place. Yes, in a certain way that it's involving my mind, even my body to a certain extent as I'm holding the book and this and that. But that is a restful experience in a way that laying down, sprawling out on the couch with a bowl of potato chips, watching the latest Marvel series, and then binge watching several episodes of whatever show. That is, I don't know about you guys, that to me is not a restful experience. It's a slothful one. And I'm telling you, as a man, I don't believe that's the best use. I'm preaching to myself here, guys, but I wouldn't be preaching to myself if I wasn't doing this in community right now. So thank God for this community. But I'm not trying to be legalistic and say never do that. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is there are certain things that if you allow them into your life and they begin to take the place of godly, healthy habits that actually are truly restful, those activities are going to keep you from those eternally beneficial activities. And they're going to deaden your senses and dull your mind and dull your heart. And you're going to be less of the man that you were created to be. And that to me, when you think about the reality of eternity, that to me is, I was going to say tragic, but if we heed the warning, then it's sobering. And it's encouraging, I dare say, if we take the warning.
Right. Well said, brother. If I may, I want to articulate exactly how we can see what it is that is problematic. Some things, for example, in the book of Hebrews, it tells us that, I think it's Hebrews 11, where it says there are some sins that, beware of the sin that easily entangles. And there are other things that are not sinful, but they do pull you back from the Lord. There are things that are that weigh heavy upon the soul of a man. And the question is, how do you distinguish and articulate what that is? And I found this from Susanna Wesley, the mother of Charles Wesley, this point that she made about sin, which is very powerful. If I may share it. She says, take this rule. Whatever weakens your reason, impairs the tenderness of your conscience, obscures your sense of God, or takes off the relish for spiritual things. In short, whatever increases the strength and authority of your mind over your body, your body over your mind, that thing is sin to you, however innocent it may be in itself.
Good, man. As we're talking here, I was just reminded of 1 Corinthians 6:12, because what that says is all things are lawful for me, but not all things are profitable. All things are lawful for me, but I will not be mastered by anything. So, hey, man, for some guys, that's smoking cigarettes. For some guys, that's binge watching TV shows. For some guys, it could be reading books. It could be Man, you name it. Look, I'm not going to sit here and list all the things because everybody's circumstance is different.
Yeah.
Here's what I want to propose, because we are talking about how to apply biblical principles and we're talking about manly community and manly fellowship. I want to put forward this idea that I think is an excellent antidote to falling into those traps of allowing ourselves to be distracted and taken over by these less than profitable things. I think that intentionally pursuing godly, biblically focused, Bible saturated, fraternal, manly brotherhood is a strong remedy against that kind of laziness. And I think there's different things we can do. Like those of us who are married, we can spend time with our wives, and we better be spending time with our wives. We can spend time with our children. We can lead family worship. There's spiritual disciplines. We can pray. We can fast. But this idea of getting together for God, for regular, disciplined, and we have an advantage here. I think maybe advantage isn't the right word. We have a blessing as men, because as men, we're naturally structured. We're naturally wired to call one another out and to push back on each other. I can't tell you how many times Micah and I have been friends for 27, 28 years, something like that. I can't tell you how many times we've challenged each other. And man, there were times when it didn't seem like the friendship was going to last. For real. But that we're men, so it's fine. We can fight. We can challenge each other. We can sharpen the face of one another, as Proverbs 27:17 says. And it's like we are specifically geared towards this and wired towards this. But the question is, you're going to take advantage of that natural propensity that God has given you. The only way you can take advantage of it is in community. You cannot. You've got this superpower that you get into community and you are sharpened by other godly men. It's something that you are wired to do as a man. The question is, are you going to take advantage of it? And it doesn't have to be AWOL. Look, if you're into the Chicagoland area, you're listening to this. If you're in Wisconsin, Indiana, it's still legal to cross state lines. Biden has not outlawed that for the unvaxxed. Come on and join us. Come on and join us. The next one's coming up December 17th. Come on out. You send me a message. I will give you the address, as long as you're not a troll and you're not a woman, because women aren't allowed. Sorry, but come on out and get sharpened. And it doesn't have to be our community. It can be something else. Start your own. Hey, we'll tell you how to do it. I mean, you got 3 guys on the channel right now who will be more than happy, each and every one of us, to tell you how to do this. Not that we're the gurus and the experts. Maybe Khaldoun is, but the rest of us, we're normal guys, and we're trying to have this community. And if that's something that you want, we will help you discover it, because it's not just something you should want. It's something that you need as a man. And again, it's an incredible blessing the Lord has given you to be able to foster godliness and to live as the man you were supposed to be in this community. We talk all the time. I know I'm going on the soapbox again, but we talk all the time on this show about answering cultural challenges with timeless truth. How are you going to get equipped for that? I mean, you're trying to go it alone. How's that working out for you? If you're like most of us, not well. Look at the statistics I cited earlier. Get into community. Even if none of you is a Bible scholar, that's all right. That'll come. Bring your Bible and open it up and get in that habit. And then go back after you've talked and go back and look up the verses that somebody mentioned, or do an internet search for verses related to the topics you guys talked about. My point is this: it doesn't have to be perfect, but get into community and get equipped, because as Micah mentioned earlier, if you're not leading your family in this, someone else is going to. Nature abhors a vacuum. A vacuum will not stay a vacuum for long. If you're not playing that role, someone else is going to bank on that. So it better be you.
Say amen to that.
Yes.
Yes.
Amen. Agreed.
Yeah.
All right. We got to wrap this up. Really quick. Give a 30-second, 10-second plug for your organization so people know where to find you guys. They're like, hey, I want to hire Micah to build my next house. Hey, I want to hire Khaldoun to rebuild my life from the ashes of the the catastrophe I brought upon it. Micah, where can people find out more about Red Cloud and your business?
Yeah, so for sure, our website, www.redcloudcontracting.com. Pretty easily find multiple links in there to contact us. That's probably the best way to do it. We do have a Facebook page. Can't cite that off the top of my head. My wife takes care of a lot of the social media stuff. But that's a great start. Yeah, I mean, any sort of what I like to say, multi-trade projects. So kitchens, bathrooms, basements, additions, finishing an attic space, or if you are a small business owner and looking to expand, outgrowing your existing space, or know someone who is, or looking to purchase a building that needs a bunch of work done to it, like I'm doing right now for a customer. General contractor. So I do all sorts of good stuff. And
right on.
Yeah.
That's great.
Awesome. Cal?
Sure. If you're tired of trying everything and not getting anywhere, if you really want to see more productivity, peace, and passion in your life, you need to get along with somebody and get connected to someone so that you can transform the man within you with the God who is above you, so you can make an impact to the culture around you. And that won't happen unless you're around a group of men who can do that with you. If you don't have that, Logically Faithful, I have a coaching ministry which works individually with men to be able to find that in their community, build that within themselves, and make a significant difference with the gifts, talents, and experiences God has gifted you with. And if you need that, reach out. It's logicallyfaithful.com. You can go /coaching specifically for what I'm referring to. It's logicallyfaithful.com.
All right. And if you want to get in touch with me, go to thethink.institute/contact. That's the best way to get in touch with me. It will go directly to my email. And if you want to come to a future Awol Gathering, because you've been listening to the three of us and you go, those are three guys that I want to hang out with. Or maybe you're like, you know what? Those guys are lunatics. I want to go set them straight. That's fine. You can come out, hang out. Just bring your own tobacco and beer and whiskey. Bring something to share, because if you're going to come and rip on us, it's the least you can do. But come on out and enjoy some manly, brotherly, fraternal fellowship. And the best way to find out about that is to go to thethink.institute/contact, send me a message and say, I want to come to Awol. We are located in the Chicagoland area in the Fox Valley region, although you don't have to live in the Fox Valley region to join us. And hey, if you're just in town, maybe you live somewhere else and you're going to be visiting Chicago on one of the dates when we are doing an Awol, you're more than welcome to join us as well. Just can't bring your significant other because it's men only. All right. Well, that about wraps it up for this episode. The ThinkPod is a production of the Think Institute and is produced by yours truly, Joel Settecase. The Think Institute operates under Church Movements, a ministry of Cru, under the division of Cru City. To learn about how to support the Think Institute tax-free, go to thethink.institute/partner. I hope you heard something helpful. I know I did. Remember, this is not goodbye. This has just been a short stop along the journey, as together we learn how to lead our families in defending the Christian message and to answer current cultural challenges with timeless biblical truth. Until next time, I hope it makes you think.